Okay, we're ready to start?
I think so, Craig.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
we better start.
Okay, so I guess I could say good noon and good morning to everybody. And I just say it's great to be back to have these meetings again amongst all of our members. And so we're looking forward to, the next, I guess, the next hour and a half of reacquainting ourselves and getting up to speed on IEC, what we're doing, and most importantly, how we can involve you in our activities. So with that said, next slide, please. Here's our agenda for today. I'll start off with introductions and updates. Then we'll talk about some of the current grant proposals, because we all know that resources are really important to what we'd like to do. And then also we'd like to have discuss some of the opportunities that we have that are on the table and we need your help in. And then some of the growth points. It's a positive note that we're getting bigger and we manage our growth in certain ways, and we need your inputs on how to do that, or at least tell you the ways we'd like to proceed in doing that. Talk about some of the upcoming events, and then we also have a IEC Catalyst workshop in October, so put that down on your calendars as the next event that we're going to have. And then finally, member engagement. How can we get you involved more in what we're doing so that we can move along in our enterprise? Okay, so the first part of what I'm doing is introductions and updates for IEC. The introductions will be in the slides later on, but I'd just like to say that some of the programs, important programs that we're working on or that we have worked on in the past are the Anti-Racism Practice in Engineering, Exploring Learning and Solutions 2021 virtual workshop. And but this occurred earlier this year. Very exciting, learned a lot. And I think a lot of you also attended this workshop. We had the IEC online mini workshop series. This was occurring from May through December. And then also the ECE and HSI workshop series, which was October 2020 and January 2021. And these workshops were hosted by a number of our IEC board members. And we had a lot of interesting information that we gave out on programs in our community and things happening and things that we found very useful for people to learn about and to participate in. Then also, we are very proud to announce, Brother John, that the first working group has been started, and it's our digital systems working group. And they've done just a tremendous job in pulling people together, looking at everybody's interest in digital systems. And so my hat's off to John. It's an exceptional job, and we hope to have others formed and have you participate in those. Next slide, please. Okay, then we've, in the area of membership, we've been working on the different tiers or level of membership and how these things work. So this is our current structure. We have what we call sustaining members. That's most of you who are on this call. The HBCIs, HSIs, tribal colleges and universities. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, and other MSIs. And then we have the affiliate members. These are the PWIs and research institution academic partners, another important part of what we do. And then finally, we have the corporate members. Of course, that's really important that we have corporate involvement in everything that we do so that we keep ourselves grounded. Next slide, please. So here is a list of all the sustaining members. We have Alabama. I'm going to read them off, so just bear with me because we haven't been together, and I think we all want to hear our universities' names. So we have Alabama A&M, Florida A&M, Hampton, Howard, Jackson State, Morgan, Navajo, Norfolk State, North Carolina A&T, Prairie View, Southern University, and then we also have the Southwest Indian Polytechnic, SIPI, Tennessee State University, Tuskegee University, University of Maryland Eastern Shore. We have Turabo from Puerto Rico, and then we also have UAGM from Puerto Rico, University of Texas El Paso, University of Texas Rio Grande, University of District Columbia, VSU, Virginia State University, and then we have affiliate members of Rensselaer and Seattle University. Gosh, okay. Next slide, please. Now I said something really, really exceptional. We've had the two newest members, and these two newest members are one, the Navajo Technical Institution and the Southwest Indian Polytechnic Institution, join us as tribal colleges. And then we also have the University of Texas Rio Grande and also UAGM from Puerto Rico. So let's give a round of applause for these two members. Okay, when we expand, it's always good to expand, especially in the right directions. And this definitely is the right direction. Okay, so next slide, please. And then what would life be without our corporate partners? We have Intel, we have KBR, Infineon, Keysight, L3 Harris, and Quanzar. That doesn't say that this list will be like this forever. We hope it gets bigger and larger and have more people on there, not for the sake of just growth space, but for the sake of people being interested in what we do in our cause. So next slide. And look at these gorgeous group of people right here, especially the person all the way over there on the left side, upper left hand.
Number three, the person number three is is handsome. Look how handsome he is.
Look at that.
No beard though.
No beard. No, this is
person.
Yeah, so
well, it's unfortunate they don't have their penguin suits on, but they do have suits on. So we've got John Kelly, Vice President, and Mohammed as our Secretary and Treasurer, Ken Connor, one member at large, another member at large, Mark Smith, and then we have Steve Goodnick, member at large, and then we have Miguel Velez-Ruiz, another member at large, and then we have Dr. Mack as our member at large, and Shiny Abraham as another member, and then of course the person in the lower right corner, what we do without him, our Executive Director, John Janowick.
So glad to see the faces, although it's on Zoom, but still glad to see everybody. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to kind of give you an update and also kind of talk about the IEC grant proposals, in particular, the NSF proposals. Some are current, some of what we are looking forward to. And so we have three that we want to discuss. And the first is the Includes Alliance. The second one is the Broaden Participation. That's from the SIZE Directorate. And then a new one, which is the Racial Equity in STEM Education. So the Includes Alliance, we applied, and I'll talk about each one on the next slide. We can go ahead to the next slide and I'll make some comments. So the Includes Alliance, we did apply in January of 2021. As some of you know, you may know about Includes, but it's a very competitive solicitation, and they did award 5 in the recent round. We were not awarded, but we were pretty proud in terms of putting together a team in a relatively short period of time to go after that. So we did show that we could work together as a team to put together kind of a comprehensive proposal such as Includes. And so that gives us a leg up, I think, as we move forward. As you can see, the next round is going to be January 2022, and we do want to go after that next award. You can see the dollar amounts, anywhere from 1 million to 2 million per year. And so we're talking about, $10 million potentially over 5 years, if that's the period that we want to apply for. And so a key for this alliance, and one other thing I should say is that the next round, NSF is going to award 1 to 2, have 1 to 2 or 3 awards. The last round, they awarded 5, so it's a decrease this time. And as I indicated before, they are definitely very competitive. However, we do believe that we have the group here that can go after such an award and win. I just put a couple of things up here in terms of what NSF does support and address. And I wanted to kind of underline the collaborative research infrastructure approach. So we know that collaboration is key now, and for this alliance, you really need a fairly large number of not only individuals, but institutions, organizations to come together to address the problem, whatever problem we identify. But the key to the problem is really addressing underrepresented and underserved groups or communities, particularly in terms of STEM. And certainly we were emphasizing electrical and computer engineering, including women in this demographics for this includes alliance. So collaborative networks, partnerships, that's really key, because NSF has an inclusive hub, I believe. And so you have to figure out and indicate how you're going to tie to that hub. So that was the first one, again, that we applied for. It didn't get, but we want to indeed look at the next round. Okay, we can move on to the next one. The second one was the broadening participation in computing alliance. And so this was out of the SIZE directorate. The objective for both of them were really to increase the number of degrees from the HBCUs and Hispanic serving institutions at that time. So we really had the same objective. In this one, we were focused on computing. The first one, the includes, we were focused on electrical and computer engineering. And we looked at computing in particular and computer engineering because we felt that there was kind of a gap. We know the surge of enrollments in computer science across the nation. Even NSF put together a group to really look at how universities are addressing this surge in terms of enrollments. So we know that there's been such a growth in that area, and we feel that computer engineering has suffered some, but also we see that as an opportunity to really emphasize computer engineering under the SIZE directorate. And as we look at it, we see that engineering has not been emphasized much. When they talk about computing, a lot of times they'll talk about information technology, computer science, software engineering, but engineering seems to be left out. So we really want to take this opportunity and focus on computer engineering in particular. You can see it's smaller than the other ones, and this should be, and actually this should be $750,000 per year as a max range. And so that gets you to the $2.5 million over a 3-year period. So you're looking at up to 3 years there. And so as the other alliance, it can go from K through 12, even with the new alliance, you can start at pre-K. But it's starting from the beginning all the way till the students get into the workforce or to graduate school. So it's very expansive and extensive in that regard. And so again, they want to increase the number of domestic students receiving post-secondary degrees in the computing disciplines. Next slide. And the new, this is a new program. So the other 2 programs, the due date is January 2022. This new program, Racial Equity in STEM Education, this one is due March 2022. So we have a bit more time to address this one. As I indicated, it's a new program. In that regard, there are no budget limits at all. So, and also if you go on NSF website, you will see there's not the traditional long solicitation description as for the other kinds of solicitations and RFPs. But this one, they just have a synopsis, and that's what we're to use when we're looking at what is required. But no specified budget limits. So depending on what we say the scope is, will determine the budget. Generally 3 to 5 years is what they are talking about. And the key, as the title of this indicates, we're talking about systemic racism and racial equity. Now, Craig early on talked about various workshops that we have had, and we have had a workshop, several workshops dealing with this particular topics, the OPALS workshops. So we are really in a great position to have the kind of the theoretical basis and all the information that we need to really go after this new solicitation here. So we think that all of these proposals will be well suited to enter in NSF. And so it talks about these two topics, systemic racism and racial equity. And all this is really to determine how systemic barriers impact access to, retention in, and success in STEM education, research, and workforce development. So these are the three proposals, the three opportunities that you all and we all have. The next slide, please. So within terms of the three, as I indicated, the includes, we applied for the includes, the broadening participation in computing, we didn't quite make it. We do have a lot of materials and information, and we wrote a lot. We didn't quite make that deadline in that proposal, but we are set to get started again. Within those two proposals, we had 5 working groups, I should say. Well, we had 4 in each. One, as you can see, the transition working group, that was only in the includes. So the AIECE is the Alliance for Inclusion in Electrical and Computer Engineering. So that transition working group, and I'll just say a couple things about each. It was one that really, where we identified what are the critical transition points in the life of an electrical and computer engineering student. And so we tried to say, what should we do at those critical points? And so, example, high school to college, lower to upper division, university workplace. So there were several critical points that we identified and really looked at interventions and activities that we would do in order to try to get those students to be successful in the next stage. So that was just in the include. So we changed that working group to the Messaging and Identity Development Working Group for the BPC. And this one is really about, what is computer engineering identity? How do we ensure that the students understand, what computer engineering is and get them motivated to pursue and stay in that discipline. And we also feel that, the messaging is not good out there. And so we feel that an emphasis needs to be placed on what the message should be, how the message should be covered, who the message should go to. So and those are 2 of the working groups there. The next one, Mentoring and Professional Development Working Group. And one of the things I should say is that these working groups are not isolated. They work and collaborate with each other. The Mentoring and Professional Development Working Group, we know how important mentoring is. So this is about peer-to-peer mentoring, online mentoring, and also across our institutions, and to ensure that the students have and the mentors have the necessary professional development in order to be successful, to help students persist. That was in both of those proposals. The Shared Curriculum Working Group dealt with kind of developing an online curriculum, online modules, and these can go hand in hand with the current curriculum. It's really about looking at giving getting information to the student, making information available to the student at the right time. This is also working with other groups like the Transition Working Group, and also working with industry as well, because many of the problems and the tasks, the performance tasks that would be developed by industry personnel. And lastly, the Academic, Industry, and Community Engagement Working Group. We feel that this is kind of the pot of gold, because this one really does tie the other working groups together. It's really about learning, student learning, and having that tie to their communities. Community is critically important. And so industry has to be involved in that, because the kinds of problems that are taken to the community need to be problems that are developed by all. And so this, we feel, is a critical working group. And as I said, like the pot of gold. So I kind of give you just a synopsis of the working groups here. And lastly, what I want to say is that, you know, we're talking about getting more of our students graduated. And I say, who is better to do that than us? I mean, we've had these problems in terms of retention, persistence for so long. And a lot of folks have tried, you know, small things to do it. I say that we, the IEC, is the organization, that's us and you. We're the folks to get this done. So in order for us to be successful in these proposals, it needs all institutions involved. Not necessarily at the same level, but everybody needs to be involved. And so I really, you know, am encouraging that we, you know, in each institution play a role. Our next step is really to look at these three proposals, figure out what the focus and the vision is going to be, so that we don't duplicate in each and in either of them. So, I'm really, you know, urging all of you to get involved. We will need additional working groups, but we need people to also be in the leadership role. We need people to be in other roles, but we need everyone to be involved, because that's the beauty and the strength of the IEC, and particularly of our HBCUs, HSIs, and tribal colleges.
Eric Maxwell, and I am the branch chief for the Technical Integration Branch at GTRI. And we focus on rapid prototyping of concepts for ground maneuver forces. And what we do is we literally field our research within 3 to 6 months, and the troops are using it. And so I'll provide an overview of GTRI and let you know what we're doing as soon as I can figure out how to go to the next slide. My arrows, there we go. All right, so GTRI. GTRI is a unit at Georgia Tech, and actually it's a unit that began in 1934. In fact, as the engineering experiment station. In fact, it began about 50 years after Georgia Tech started, and it began on the principle that it's not enough for students to get an academic education, but they need a place where they can try things out, where they can experiment with what they're learning in the classroom. And so that's how the experiment station started. And subsequently, the experiment station, about 7 years, 8 years later, began to bring on some contracts for the government contracts. And today, about 90% of our portfolio consists of federally funded work. And so we're distinct from, we're still a part of Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech considers us the applied research arm. And we'll see in later slides that greater than 50% of the research revenues that comes into Georgia Tech comes as a result of the work that we're doing. Now, in terms of, you can imagine that GTRI as well as the academic side of Georgia Tech both do research. The research done by the academic side typically spans from what we call a technology readiness level of 1, which is basic principles, basic research, all the way up to around a TRL level of 6, which is system, subsystem models, prototypes, and demos. Whereas at GTRI, typically our work begins around a TRL level of 3, which is an analytical, experimental, critical function. And our work goes up to actual system flight proven readiness, success, mission, operational deliverables, or TRL level 9. So I sort of spoke to this slide already, but essentially right now, today, around 643 million in research awards characterizes GTRI, and we have around 2,444 scientists and engineers. We're actually the largest employer of students in the state of Georgia, and we're continuing to grow. So one of the distinctions that GTRI has is as a UARC, or a University Affiliated Research Center. There are actually 15 UARCs. We're the second largest of the UARCs, and the largest when it comes to the Army affiliated research centers. And so what that looks like from a revenue perspective, when you compare us with the campus overall, I mentioned that about 60% of the research awards comes through GTRI, even though we comprise probably around 25% of the research population, to give you a sense. And incidentally, I was given 10 minutes for this presentation, so I may go through it a bit quickly. Now, our locations, we're located actually most of our work happens in the Atlanta area, as well as the metro Atlanta area. We are located in about 25 buildings, either on campus or in what we call our Cobb County Research Facility. And we have 22 field offices throughout the United States where we're connected or embedded with our customers. And so we are divided into directorates, and each directorate has laboratories associated with it, and those laboratories has their thrust areas in terms of their technical focus areas. I won't go through each one of those. However, there are 8 different laboratories, and I should have taken these transitions out of this slide presentation. I'm with the Advanced Concepts Laboratory, and that provides a really quick listing of it. Now, let's talk about what we're doing in the way of our collaborations with HBCUs and the work they're in. First of all, there's a lot of work that's happening outside of the single slide that I'm showing here. We have, so much of the work I'm not going to mention. I'm only going to mention a contract that we received through the Army to ensure that we collaborate with HBCUs in order to increase the number of HBCUs and MSIs who write task orders with the government. The government has determined that many of the TOs that are written are confined to a certain number of PWIs, and the government would like to change that in terms of increasing the number of MSIs and HBCUs who are writing task orders. So to facilitate that, we are partnering with HBCUs and MSIs as we walk together along this journey of understanding how to negotiate and how to write TOs with the government. Secondarily, we're providing access to our UARC so that the HBCUs and or MSIs could actually write TOs using our UARC as a vehicle for the work with the DoD. Now, a lot of times that work entails us helping the HBCU or MSI to set up the security that's necessary on their side in order to be able to accommodate that work. We're also looking at providing access to our research security division folks for providing some of those resources as well. And so that's a really quick snippet, if you will, of GTRI. One aspect of the work that we're doing in the way of our HBCU MSI collaborations in HSI. So at that point, at this point, I'm going to stop sharing, and I don't know what's on the venue in the way or time in the way of answering any questions.
I think we can take a few questions. If anyone has any they'd like to either put in the chat or pose directly.
I do have a verbal question I'd like to ask Eric. I noticed that the Tougaloo Foundation is helping you with the I guess connecting to the MSIs and everything. And the award was made in 2020, I believe. Have you been successful in awarding any contracts through this mechanism? And how close are you to making your target?
So at present, we do not have any HBCUs and MSIs who have written a contract. Well, actually, I'm going to split hairs here. The answer is no, not through this contract. However, the answer is yes at GTRI. So there was an effort that began before we were awarded this contract, where we are collaborating, doing exactly the same work outside of this contract. Some of those have reached maturity and tactical orders have been written on those. So we're not really counting any of those. We're starting our counting clock anew with regards to this particular contract. So, however, they are serving as an example for our collaborations thus far. Now, we've been having what we call networking events, and we've had approximately either six or nine of those with various HBCUs and MSIs. And what has resulted from those includes white papers we have funded, or some research in terms of internal research and development. Some of the technologies needed to be matured a bit more before some of our DoD customers could provide the funding for those. So we're helping to mature some of those. And so it's certainly a work in progress. And for those that we've already started working with prior to this contract, they are a bit more mature in that developmental process.
Eric, I'm not sure if you are aware or not, but we are having a discussion. And when I say we, all the group here, all the people here, the IEC with GTRI, to develop programs whereby we are considered as a super department. Every member here is also involved. And the goal, and this is still to be discussed, is that when you look at unit per one, when you take one school per one, it is not going to work if you give a school 50K or so. These kind of things will not going to work. And so it's better, in my opinion, and discussion for my colleague who are not in the discussion here, it's better that we move that into bigger project with an IEC as a representative, and us working among each other to help the DoD and help GTRI in its mission.
I think that's wonderful, and I think you point out something that we have certainly been discussing a lot lately.
Yeah.
In terms of our approach. Now, of course, we're taking TCRDF is providing leadership in the area for us and helping to guide us through that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for the presentation. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
So I'd like to follow up on that just a little bit. You know, when you talk about relationships that involve securing funds from the Army and so on, it starts with building those relationships. It starts typically with two people having a conversation. And you did talk about networking events. Could you expand a little bit on that and talk about opportunities that you see are available for us as a community to start developing those kinds of relationships with GTRI?
Absolutely. So in terms of networking events, our networking events have been primarily with our researchers and faculty members. Now, TCRDF has provided some access through its board in terms of reviewing certain proposals and getting that in front of some of the customers on that end. And of course, we're working on our end to ensure that any white papers or proposals or thoughts are brought before our customers. I'm not aware of there being any customer interactions on our side without having already advanced, for those that haven't yet advanced to a TO. And so under this contract, now it may be my ignorance, but I'm not aware that the customers have been engaged, the GTRI customers have been engaged for those who haven't advanced to a TO, I should say. And so that would include anyone that has not, anyone from this contract forward. Now, for those, of course, that predates this contract, that's been going on for a while, and those customers have been involved. And so, and now another thing we've sort of, we're seeing in the collaboration is that cybersecurity seems to be an easier area to collaborate in. We have some areas that's a bit more tough to collaborate around that tend to be related to some of the work that require clearances, et cetera, for us to have real discussions. And so we're working through that. And that is related to at least some of the reasons why the customer part of it has not been strongly introduced yet until we can reach a certain level of development or relationship. Now, there was a second part of that question. Could you repeat the second part of that question?
Well, really what I was trying to get at is just to, as perhaps an outcome of this meeting, is to find ways in which we might be able to get involved through conversations, through building relationships with people in the organization in GTRI that could then lead to other things, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I think this is a good first step. You are actually on the radar now of our CTO, as well as Tom Martin, who actually is the PI of the contract that we're talking about. In fact, Tom said that he's going to try to jump into this meeting at the appropriate time when he's available, and he may jump in before it's over with if his schedule permits. But I believe those conversations have already begun. I believe following up with Tom Martin is a way to sort of solidify, or at least to move it to that next step. And so I think it will require some follow-up, but I believe well, honestly, before this meeting, I wasn't aware of IEC. And so the awareness is important as well. So, but I believe that follow-up with Tom Martin is going to be golden.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.
Yeah, just
Moving on, we have Wayne Scales with us as well, who's going to present on an opportunity.
okay. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with the group. And so I'd just like to say, one, it's been very stimulating listening to all the discussion this morning. I've become very excited, and even more so after the beginning part of the meeting. So what I want to talk about is an opportunity I have been kicking around with a few members, and hopefully I can get some of you interested this morning, and we can have some follow-up discussions. So the topic I want to quickly talk about is quantum information science and engineering experiential learning. And I'm from Virginia Tech. And I'd like to just note at the bottom the departments who are contributing to this laboratory: electrical and computer engineering, material science, physics, and the materials, one of our materials research centers, and also integrated security. So this is sort of an opening pitch. Currently, there's a large number of organizations looking at what interdisciplinary skill sets are needed by industry for quantum science and engineering workforce. I'll just use the terminology QISE, as we sometimes use inside my university. Over the past few years, there's been a number of conferences on this. And one thing that it ends up at most of the conferences, this is a fairly difficult problem to train college level students in quantum science and engineering, even though many people argue that it'll revolutionize society over the next couple of decades. One of the key points that has been continually brought up by industry is a hardware experiential learning experience, and universities will have to meet this challenge by developing innovative experiential learning experiences possibly with private industry, but also with laboratory courses inside the university. And I think some of you who may be familiar with the area know that there are large pots of money in the billions of dollars from the federal government to develop this area, because we think it's going to be so important in the future. And MSIs, HBCUs, they have to play a critical role in the workforce development. So one of the goals that I've been working on over the past several years is a hardware laboratory for experiential learning. And a couple of the key points: one, it could serve as an introductory hardware laboratory experience. And the software part is, in my opinion, it's in reasonably good shape. Some of you may be familiar with IBM and their quantum computer and their Qiskit language and the opportunities there. But this is going from the hardware perspective. It uses quantum photonics because in many regards it's relatively straightforward and economical from a hardware perspective to train students on quantum science from quantum photonics perspective. It could train BS, MS, PhD, or industry professionals, and that would certainly facilitate the hardware experiential learning that a lot of industry needs. And it can also even do K through 12 outreach on basic quantum science and societal awareness. This is the course that I want to talk quickly about that we have developed recently. Again, it's an introductory quantum engineering laboratory, ECE, electrical and computer engineering. It'll be taught out of that department. However, it's suitable for a broad spectrum of students, both in engineering and science. So for instance, physics, chemistry, some math students would be certainly could get a lot out of the course. One of the important things I'll note here that you can see this underlined are the prerequisites for the course. This is one of the sticking points in a lot of education in the field, is how do you get the appropriate prerequisites for students with such broad backgrounds. But this course has been developed so students that are quite good in linear algebra, complex numbers, and sophomore level modern physics should be in good shape to take this course. Some of the laboratory equipment is shown here. You can see it's photonics based. There are some lasers and RF generators and photon detectors and such that are used in the laboratory. So this is the type of equipment that they would be using. And then there's an array of topics: wave particle duality, photon generation for quantum communications, quantum random number generations, quantum cryptography, quantum key distribution, and various types of quantum sensing. This shows a bit more in detail of what the course is going to entail. One thing that we tried to do with this initial course was to try to make it somewhat of a survey, because at least at our institution, we expect students from 6 or 7 departments would need to be in a position where they could take the course. For instance, physics, chemistry, math, data analysis and computations, electrical and computer engineering, material science, computer science, so forth and so on. And we actually have tested the course with students from this spectrum of backgrounds, and we think we're successful, and the students get through the laboratories and they're very excited in most cases. We break this up into several key aspects, and in quantum science, which is the most fundamental, those are highlighted in blue, as you can see at the left in the weekly schedule of the course. We do some quantum communications in terms of creating pulses for quantum communications and random number generation. We also do quantum cryptography. We think at our institution, we have a very rapidly growing security research center there. And so we have quantum key distribution with and without entanglement. And then we finish up the course with one aspect of quantum sensing, which is quantum sensing of magnetic fields. And so what the students, for instance, do in this laboratory is they use quantum mechanical effects to measure the Earth's vector magnetic field and compare it to other methods. So this is a possibility that we've discussed in terms of educational partnership and quantum science and experiential learning and these are some plans that we hope to carry out over the next year or so. And we would like to have further discussions with those of you who are interested or see potential in this. So one of the important things that I should note is that this course is currently being developed into a virtual laboratory, so it could be accessed remotely. That is, students from different institutions, people from private industry. Our engineering online office has actually a great capability for that. They've won awards for developing virtual laboratories, the last of which they developed we have a almost full-scale wind tunnel at our institution, and they developed a virtual wind tunnel laboratory, which has been very highly praised. And so that's what our current state. All of the course materials are in place and have been developed. Those of you who may have interest, please let me know. I could give you access. You could take a look, but that's the ongoing work, is to develop it into a virtual laboratory. We expect several of the virtual lab exercises to be completed by November of this year. And then in spring semester of next year, we've had some good discussions, for example, with Prairie View and the virtual component. We hope to beta test with Prairie View and some of our own students. Some of you out there who may have interest in being a beta tester, I'm more than happy to talk with you about how to get availability. In the fall of next year, we hope to offer the full remote laboratories to IEC members who may have an interest in doing quantum information science and engineering training. Again, the course can go for undergraduates or graduates. As I said, we developed this initially as a survey, but any one of those areas or others we could go into in much greater detail and expand the course in one direction or another. And so that's what we're hoping, that the ICE members can partner and with us, and they can provide feedback and ideas on how to tailor the course for their specific needs and other innovative ideas of how to do this type of education in an area that we think is going to be very important for decades to come. And then the last thing is that we hope to exploit some opportunities for funding proposals to build the hardware infrastructure within the IEC. And so again, I thank you for the opportunity to present this. And if we have any time for questions, I'm happy to try to answer. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wayne. I think we have time maybe for one quick question if there are any.
I'll just make a quick comment, is that we will be keeping everybody informed of the process as it goes along. And so you can express your interest at any point, but the sooner the better, I would say.
All right, thank you, Ken.
Okay, all right. I'm talking about this opportunity, and I'm representing my friend Damon from University of Florida. University of Florida, I don't know if you know, but they have received a large amount of money to start an AI initiative, they call it. And one of the things they are planning to do is the so-called UF at IEC. And this is a University of Florida and the IEC initiative. Based on that, the first thing when Damon had introduced and explained to us, as a matter of fact, you can see it on the web if you Google NVIDIA UF Artificial Intelligence Initiative, you will see that. But follow up on that, John Janwick and Craig, we signed an MOU between University of Florida and IEC. And then Damon came back with what he called UF at IEC, is set of activities that I will go through really rather quickly. And then there is still some development that is going to follow up and discussion before we get this going. Next, please. So these are the initiatives. So UF at IEC is a set of activity, project, and collaboration, in particular field applied AI. He has mentioned to me two things. The first one, that applied AI is really that. It applies to any field. As a matter of fact, they're hiring people to do AI in journalism. Now, for us, what is UF at IEC is that UF will provide the following. A, they will provide for us access to all, and they really have a lot of material, all AI education material that available to their own UF faculty and students. Number two, we will have access to their AI supercomputer anytime, anywhere, like they say. Number three, they will provide mentorship to the student through REU, but he has emphasized, and which he's here, he will talk more about that. He mentioned to me that when he said REU program is not your regular REU, it has activity with the faculty also. UF will provide professional development for IEC faculty member in terms of sabbatical otherwise. UF and IEC member, following on that, they will develop lecture series and communication between us. He mentioned also we can participate in committees in their conferences that they have every year. And finally, UF and IEC would develop a real thorough research program that includes examples like code advising, publication, proposal, and so on. He has emphasis that this is number two, that everything here it's done at equal level. We will sit at the table. There is no us come in as just an add on to their program. So this is what they are putting together at UF at IEC. We've been talking in leadership group with them. We continue the discussion, and the main thing here is every single member, every single one of you is asked to contribute in there and to be part of this. There is a lot of opportunity, and we can tailor it. We can do it the way it will fit us as members. And that's all what I have right now.
All right. This is just to bring you up to date on a program that's actually been around for quite a while, but it actually started in 2005, but it has gone through a major change with a new structure. And it's from the AFRL, Air Force Research Lab Initiative on Minority Leaders Research Collaborative Program. What's different is that they signed a cooperative agreement with Ohio State to handle the program, and Ohio State's been working on developing a website and infrastructure and everything that's necessary to make this work. There will be funding at moderate levels available to MSIs, and so it does represent an opportunity to do some research with the Air Force. There'll be more information coming. It has turned out that during this transition period, it's actually been rather difficult to get connected with the people involved in the program. And I have to tell you that we did try several times to get connected with the program manager at the Air Force Research Lab with no response. But this morning, I sent an email to the assistant director or associate director of the program at Ohio State, and I got good information back, and their website is going to be launched within the next 2 weeks, and we'll let you know as soon as it's up and running, so that you can take a look at things. They've also offered to have discussions with us, which the leadership group will discuss later this week. And so we'll get together with them and find out what real opportunities there are for IEC members to get involved with this program. It has some flaws as far as I'm concerned, but I'm going to withhold any judgment on the program until we actually have direct discussions with them and see how the new program is going to work. The emphasis in the past has largely been on opportunities for students, and there's a lot of good things going on in the program, but I think it's and so it looks to me like this will be a good opportunity, and we'll keep you informed as we learn more about it. Oh, one final question: is there anybody at the meeting today who's actually had experience with this program in the past? If you have, it'd be great if you'd share it with us. You don't have to do it right now, but if you or any of your colleagues have been involved in this in the past, it would be interesting to learn about your experiences.
Okay, next, John Kelly.
Morning, colleagues. Good afternoon. In a similar way to the opportunity that Mohammed announced to you, we have an independent opportunity to partner with NVIDIA. As many of you already know, NVIDIA is a company that makes graphical processing units, and those GPUs are frequently used to implement artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. So this could be an opportunity for IEC to plot its own path to excellence in the development of curriculum and supporting labs for artificial intelligence, where NVIDIA would support the development of that curricular content, but also the expectation would be that they would also make some of that hardware available so that we could implement labs. So what we need moving forward is a collection of you all so that the solution that is presented is our solution and not something that was generated externally and presented to us. So please reach out to Michelle and let yourself be known. And then we will coordinate a meeting after this to begin the development of what that partnership might look like. Thank you.
So I'm supposed to say a few words on the general topic of growth points, but basically everybody has been talking about growth points up to now. So the thing I want to emphasize here is really two things. One is there are many opportunities, and this is, it turns out that I think we created IEC at just the right time because the opportunities are coming along in very large numbers, and it seems a shame to miss out on them. So please pay attention to everything that you've seen on all the slides in today's meeting. There are others looking for partners. There's new opportunities coming from funding agencies. COVID is not just causing problems, but it's making new opportunities. And any opportunities that you know of that we're not reporting to the IEC membership, please let us know about them so that we can share them with everyone. So this is just the general idea that, you know, the organization is growing in size. We're getting new members. We're trying to do new things. We're developing new partnerships. And one of the things that's seemingly, it's really key, and then Pamela talked about it with her pot of gold statement, was that there is this combination of IEC sustaining members, affiliate members from PWIs, industry and government. That's really what's going to make it possible to do more than we've been able to do in the past. And so I think we're developing a good model for how people should work together, and a lot of that is in those three proposals that Pamela talked about early on. And I again, I encourage people to think about joining any one of those activities. Another thing that we have to do in order to compete well in these proposals is to make sure that we have good information on who we are and what our opportunities are within the IEC. And I have recently been asking people for information on enrollment and degree data, which I'll talk about in a second. But there's, and we also asked every department for a summary status slide that just tells us what's going on in your department. We want to, we need to collect some additional information, which I actually went out in my most recent email to people, and that is, how does research impact teaching? What policies do you have? If you get a certain amount of research, does your teaching assignment go down by one course, and how does that work? And because there are many opportunities here with GTRI and others to do some research together, but we have to understand what that means in terms of you know, if you've got somebody teaching 4 courses, how do you take on a significant research activity unless you can go to 3 courses or 2 courses or something like that in order to get it done? And all this has to be done in the context that the institutions that they're participating in IEC are teaching oriented institutions. They're not historically research oriented institutions. And in no way do we want to change that. We want the focus of the organizations to still be on producing the best possible graduates. And what should the role of research be in that? And we have to think about that. So any new ideas you have or programs that are going on at your institutions, please share with us so that we can share them with everybody, and let us know what good and bad things have been going on, any recent successes and pain points. There's been plenty of pain points during COVID that we've talked about in a variety of circumstances, but I'm sure we haven't heard of all of them. And so it'd be great to share that. So next slide, I just want to quickly go over a little bit of my data collection to this point and why I'm doing this again. As those of you who have heard from me and provided data understand that what I did was I went to everybody's website and looked up the information that's required by ABET on enrollment and degrees. And because I was really interested in seeing if there are any trends, particularly getting a good baseline and seeing what's been happening in COVID, because I've actually heard from a couple of different institutions that COVID has accelerated a decline in enrollment that had maybe started possibly before COVID started. There are new degree programs coming online in various places, particularly in the computer engineering area. And I wanted to see how those things were going. And I'd say you don't want to make too much of this data at this point, because I don't have full data from everybody. But one of the things that is clear is that there's definitely an opportunity to increase the number of graduates, to increase retention. This is something Pamela talked about previously. And it turns out that there's a significant difference in retention between computer engineering and electrical engineering. And we can only see these things once we collect the data. I am also curious now to see if there's a difference in retention by gender and so forth. And so these are things that we're going to need to take a look at and collect more information on, so we can point to the exceptional opportunity that the collection of institutions represented by IEC has, and that is there's an awful lot of students in these institutions. So we're looking at around 5,000 total students in the 20 institutions. And if we can increase the retention rate by even a few percent per year, the number of graduates will go up dramatically. And so there's a real opportunity to have an even bigger impact than the institutions are already having, which is big. You know, for example, in the ASEE data, 7 of the top 20 producers of African-American engineering graduates are members of IEC. 3 of the top producers of Hispanic engineering graduates are members of IEC. So I think at least 2 of the top producers are members of IEC, and so forth. And so we have a chance to have a really big impact on the engineering discipline and workforce. And so all the opportunities that we've been talking about today, all the growth points of IEC, please make every effort to participate to whatever extent is reasonable. Don't take on anything that you don't have time to do. But remember, we're trying to put a long enough time schedule, a plan into these activities so that we are, so we're able to utilize people's talents and ideas when their time is available. Okay, and so that's so what in the next few months we have a lot of good opportunities here, and I encourage everybody to pick 1 or 2 and get involved, and we should have lots of fun working together.
I'll go very quickly, and just wanted to share some information about some upcoming events. The first one we have coming up is the IEC Catalyst Workshop. I'm going to say a few more words about that in just a minute, but really it's something we've been sort of giving you a little taste of today, an opportunity to get together and learn about opportunities, but also to do some networking and create the foundation for some future collaboration. So I'll say about a little bit about more about that in the next slide. But before I do, I did want to also announce a new program, Equitech, that will be launching in January. And this is something that I'll say the target audience is really the technology industry. So we're planning to do this out on the West Coast to say include a lot of folks from Silicon Valley. But the purpose here is to create programming that will help, say, technology companies meet their goals in creating a more inclusive, a more diverse, more equitable workplace. And what better organization than the IEC to do that? So the program will really be engaging chief diversity officers from industry, but we do want to involve our IEC academic members in this as well. So I'll just say at this point, keep watching your inbox. We'll be making further announcements, and I think we might even have some pre-event activities to help launch this new activity. So that's Equitech. We will also be having a series of IEC sessions co-located at the ACETA annual conference in March. Right now that is planned for New Orleans. We are really anxious to get together face to face again. We hope we're going to be able to do that. If not, we've shown the ability to pivot to virtual events. But again, pay attention to your inbox because we will be making some announcements regarding that as well. And I should mention too, there's an opportunity to participate in the planning of these IEC sessions. I believe some of the folks on the call here are involved with that programming committee. So there may be some outreach and opportunity that way as well. So Michelle, if I could have the next slide. I did want to say a few more words about this upcoming Catalyst workshop. And again, that's coming up in just a little over a month toward the end of October. And like I said, it's again, an opportunity to be exposed to some opportunities, but also an opportunity to do some networking as well. So you see sort of at the heart of this is a series of sessions on day 2, these various working groups on some targeted technology areas. So, on day 1, we'll be, say, setting up these conversations, but especially on day 2, attendees will have the opportunity to select a working group. We'll have leaders in these working groups that will be giving an overview of the field, and then really opening it up for discussion. I like to think of it as kind of a mixer for people, at R1 institutions and our IEC members to get to know each other, know about opportunities. We're going to have some industry participation as well. So I think it is a wonderful opportunity for our IEC community. And again, there will be more information on this, including an invitation to register coming up very soon. So keep an eye out for that. Michelle, I think that's it for me. And I know we have a little bit of time left.
I think Mohammed has one more.
Yes, so I want to turn it over for member engagement to the always engaging Mohammed Chouika.
Always, yes. That's the first of all, it has been really, I am very happy, and you can see the excitement. I try to be like the PP. I don't know if the PP is here or not, but I try to have the beard of the PP and look more like a king. First, please, I'm begging you to look at the weekly brief email. Get engaged. The board of IEC are all volunteer, and we not dictate. We need your collaboration. As a matter of fact, if you look at the board, you see John Jenwick, you see Mark Smith, you see Stephen Goodnick. They are volunteer. They wanted this to succeed. I mean, I know they have a lot of other things to do. Ken has been every time. Ken will give all of his time to help us. You need to be participating. You cannot be an observer. So please, the very first thing to do is to take a look at the brief email. I spoke to many of you, and you know that you receive it, but you don't pay attention to it. Pamela had said, we have a golden mind, this is the right time to be in IEC. And you all can get involved. You all, I cannot say you get rich, but you all can make a tremendous, and I mean a very big difference in your schools. So I cannot repeat to be engaged, and don't just sit there and look. We want you to participate in the working groups, participate in the proposal, volunteer for things. Michelle, you have her email. You can talk to Ken or Craig or John or anybody. Please do that. Number two, we are going to have go back to our IEC monthly meeting. I think this is our first monthly meeting. We are going to go and get back, and Michelle will keep you informed, and etc. And number three, I know I'm gonna leave it for the question and answer. Number three, if you have an area of interest, if you like something to be happening, step up, come and talk. It's not, we're not dictatorship. We are just, everybody is shall we call, volunteering here. And our common good is what Ken call it. We are a super department. We need to all get engaged so we all can succeed. And I'm so happy that we know it's not only HBCU only, it's not only Spanish, it's not only Native American, it's all of us. And in this group, that's how we can compete and be successful.
Well, I think it's been great getting back together again.
Yeah.
And I know we've done a lot of great things before, and we are still doing good things, and we're going to do even better things in the future.
And I think, John Jenner, we cannot wait to have us all face to face and get.
No, it is long overdue, Mohammed. But I have to thank everyone for staying engaged during this difficult period of the pandemic, and honestly, all of you, many of you have contributed fantastic content to the various workshops that have been held in the last year and a half. But we are hopeful to get back together again in the near future. But in the meantime, we need to stay strong as an organization. We need to keep that engagement high. And the thing I want to say, just sort of to applaud or to build upon Mohammed's comments is, IEC has a professional organization that sits behind it, that does the administrative work. We capture the minutes for the meetings. We organize the meetings. We try to make it easy to be a participant in the consortium. It's not something where we're asking for a lot of your time. We're asking for your ideas. We're asking for your for your best thoughts in terms of, where should we focus as an organization? And then, the rest of the members along with you can really catalyze this group. So it's not a heavy commitment, even if you get involved in some of the working group activities like John's group or others. It's really, we try to make it as simple as possible. And I have to say, I've been honored to be part of this group. I love watching all the work that's going on and watching it grow. We have so many new things on the horizon, and I applaud everyone for all the hard work that everyone's put in to date. So with that, Craig, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of close this out.
Okay. Well, as Ed said before,
Craig, if I may,
yes.
just 1 minute, one.
Sure.
I'd like also to really tell you, look how many other entities are trying to work with us. People, they love to work with us. Look at Wayne, look at Virginia Tech, look at Eric at Georgia Tech Research Institute. And that's only 1 or 2 examples. So please keep engaged. And this time I'm gonna really shut up, Ken. I won't talk a word.
Okay. Well, with that said, okay. I'd like to leave it just where you left it at, Mohammed, and say thank you everybody for joining us, and we look forward again to being with you and you being with us on all our next meetings and doing great things together.